The child in me laughed when he said best package. Welcome back, everyone, to the Barbell Effect podcast. I'm Katie Homerin here. Joining me is Gavin Geltz and Zach Chemicki. Back for another episode. This time, Zach is in the hot seat. So, Zach, we're going to find out a little bit more about you, starting with how did you get into health and wellness?
It's kind of a long story just because it continuously grows as time goes on. My lore deepens. But I guess it started out I'll go way back to when just growing up. I was relatively overweight growing up, my whole childhood through middle school and the first half of high school, and I was not very healthy. I guess I don't want to say not very healthy, but more so not having healthy habits. So I feel like I'm the kind of the outlier between the three of us, where you guys were active and in sports and stuff pretty much your whole lives. And I just sat around playing video games and watching movies and TV my whole life. But yeah, I grew up pretty much overweight, and I struggled with some self-image issues and lack of confidence, and just some social anxiety in general. And everyone always says, everyone's different, and be proud of who you are, which is definitely true. You should do that. But that shouldn't be something that should stop you from changing or wanting to improve yourself or get better. And I realized that in high school, I was there's literally nothing stopping me from getting to where I wanted to be. My main goal, all growing up, was to have abs. And I always looked up to the bodybuilders and fitness models because I wanted to look like them. But I was just this chubby little weird kid with anxiety. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just growing up, you feel like there's something wrong with that, just because of the way, just being around other kids your ages, everyone's super judgy and everything. But I decided to start making changes. And first I just wanted to get skinny. Now I don't like being called skinny, even if people say it as a compliment. But yeah, that was my goal when I started out. And it started out with more so of martial arts. I liked that type of stuff. I liked that type of training, doing circuits and stuff. And just more of the fighting sports. So in high school, I started doing kickboxing. I started watching what I was eating. That's a whole nother story, because I was just looking up everything I could, and I was falling for all the garbage you see online, all the supplements, the different diets, the get abs in 15 minutes workout videos, all that kind of stuff. And I struggled at first with it. And I was definitely making progress, but at that point, looking back now, I know that that was some body dysmorphia going on, because I was getting skinnier, my goal was. And but so in high school, I started kickboxing, and in doing that, that was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that, and I ended up breaking my foot on someone's knee while sparring. And so I had to stop being active for a few months. And it was around that time where I was in a weight training class, because in my senior year of high school, we could pick from 3 different gym classes to meet the gym physical activity requirement. And one was a weight training class. So I was in that, and I had to sit out for a month or two because of my foot. But after that, that's when I started getting more into wanting to start building or bodybuilding. I don't want to say that's when I started, because it was more so, it wasn't intentional. I was just lifting weights, trying to build muscle, not thinking about competing. Because way back then in my mind, it was I'm not a bodybuilder. You have to be born to be a bodybuilder, and you have to already be doing it which realistically doesn't make any sense because you choose to do it. But so I started doing that. I started lifting weights, and then going into college, I was an environmental law enforcement major for my first year, where I took gen eds here at home. And then I went to Stevens Point, where I made friends with the wrestling team. So I was continuing to lift weights and being around people who were very physically active and were into weightlifting. And I was still somewhat struggling at that point with the nutrition side of things and what I was seeing on social media. But that's really when I started learning all the science behind it and evidence-based practice and everything. And that's when I decided I wanted to help other people start making changes. So I got my personal trainer certification through the American College of Sports Medicine. I changed my major to health promotion and wellness like Katie. I had a business minor, and I just wanted to help people who might have been in the same boat as me, where they struggled a lot growing up and struggling with social media and everything they're seeing online, not knowing what's the right thing to listen to, or the right thing to do, or the correct thing to do in terms of like what's actually effective and what's just garbage information. And then from there, it just kind of grew from that. I decided to actually start bodybuilding and dieting for a show. And I coached myself through it in 2018. And I learned a lot because I was just diving into as much as I could, trying to learn as much as I could. I started learning about physiology, metabolism, how different nutrients impact the different physique related aspects of training and lifting, and like just how you overall look. And I thought it was like super cool how like when you're lean enough, you can have visual changes in how you look based on how much sodium you're having, how much water you're having, how many carbs you're having. And I think that's where a lot of people get some misconceptions about like carbs and sodium and water and everything, because that advice is generally meant for almost stage lean bodybuilders, not someone who is at like 12 to 15% body fat. Is not really going to change anything. So I think that's where some of the misconceptions people come up with, but that's a whole other topic. So I dieted for the show, and that's when I realized I didn't know anything, or as much as I thought I did. And so that's when I decided I wanted to be a registered dietitian, because I was also regularly seeing kids fresh out of high school who have been lifting for like 6 months to a year saying, hit me up for meal plans. It's like, no, you're going to tell them to eat chicken and rice 3 meals a day. And just because that's what you do. And I was like, no, that's not what you should be doing. So I wanted to be like a credentialed, actual evidence-based professional, and realistically just an expert in nutrition, as a way to kind of stand out and just kind of ensure that I knew that I was giving the best information that I could. So I graduated from undergrad. I got an additional certification for health coaching through the American Council on Sports, or American Council on Exercise, ACE. And then I started my master's program in applied nutrition with a dietetics focus, which I'm currently still in. I'm in my last semester. I have about 8 weeks left. And throughout that time, we have to do all the coursework that's required to take the registered dietitian exam, as well as 1,200 supervised hours of practice. So working in a clinical setting, working in a community setting, and a food service setting. I only have probably about like maybe 100 hours left, like 90 to 100 hours left total, which I'll be finishing up in these next 8 weeks. And then after that, I'll be graduating, and I will then be able to take the registration exam and be a registered dietitian. Yeah, so excited for that. And I guess that's kind of a long-winded way, a long story of where I am right now sitting here.
Big boy doing big boy things.
Yeah.
First of all, I didn't know that you switched your major.
Yeah.
In my mind, I guess because I didn't meet you until after you had switched your major, I don't think.
Yeah, no, I wanted to be out of high school. I wanted to be a game warden or somewhere, something like a game warden or like a park ranger. And I wanted to move to Tennessee and work in the mountains there. But yeah,
I mean,
I ended up changing it to health promotion and wellness after my first semester in Point.
wow. Okay. Yeah. I had no idea. See, I'm even learning new things here. But I think you did bring up a good point in your backstory that like when you said that your background wasn't similar to ours. And I mean, I agree, there are a lot of differences, but it kind of parallels us three in this podcast as well, as like we all have very different niches and kind of goals and visions for ourselves and our business, but we're also coming together. And I think your background, though being it different, you shared a lot of similar mindset struggles, body image struggles. Your relationship with food obviously did not start off so hot, just like ours as well. So, and that's kind of like the whole goal of this podcast as well, is that we all are coming from very different backgrounds and different experiences, but I think we've all experienced very similar feelings and struggles and the effects of social media and just society and how it played a role in like how we viewed ourselves growing up as well. And it all drove us to be in a very similar niche as well. But you kind of talked about obviously how you are becoming a registered dietitian, but besides that, is there anything else that you specialize in?
So clearly nutrition is what I specialize in overall. And I also would like to say that I specialize in bodybuilding, just because that's where like my main focus has been pretty much over the past, what is it now, like 6 years. I've only competed once, but I've trained a couple people for a show, you and someone else, over the past couple years. So I want to keep focusing on that. My main focus right now has just been school. Similar to you, I struggled with coming out of my first show with gaining weight, and I ended up binge eating for a couple months, and I gained 40 pounds back within like a month and a half after the show. And after that, I struggled a lot with getting back into things. And over the past 5 years, there's been a whole lot of knowledge, a whole lot of growth and everything, to where that's even when something like I had talked about with you and my other clients, like coming out of the show, I was like, there's not going to be this end goal, like you're dieting for the show, that you're going to focus on. So it's important to have a plan coming out of it so that you don't end up like that. And that's something that I've seen time and time again with other coaches, with the first competitors, and even people who have competed a handful of times. It's something that you really have to focus on and work on coming out of the show, to like kind of be able to still dial in and know that you still have to keep doing the things you've been doing. Otherwise, you're going to end up before where you started, or maybe a little bit worse off. And that's even the case with lifestyle clients too. And that's kind of what pushed me to kind of focus on kind of bringing together lifestyle with bodybuilding in what I do, and trying to make the dieting process as comfortable as possible, and kind of fit it in with lifestyle overall. Because like clearly you're going to still need to be aggressive at times with the dieting or the physical activity and everything, and your body is not going to want to be stage lean, and you have to kind of just dig through it and just deal with it going into it. But it's still important to also kind of make it as healthy and enjoyable as possible, so that you are able to, one, do as best that you're able to on show day and bring the best package that you're able to do, but also come out of it in a good way where you're not like ravenous for everything, and you still have some kind of mental control over what you're doing, and having that same kind of mindset as being in like an off season, or just general lifestyle, living a healthy lifestyle. So yeah, that kind of went off from your question, but yeah, my other focus is bodybuilding. And yeah.
The child in me laughed when he said best package.
I didn't
Sorry.
even notice that. That's hilarious. Something I wanted to touch on was part of your first tangent that you went off back in the beginning.
Mhm.
Something that I kind of hit home for me, and it's something I think about a lot too, that you mentioned. It's like when we graduated from undergrad, especially, you're just coming out of school and you feel like you know so much until you get out there. And I mean, you went and pursued your RD now, and you've learned so much. And that was when you just competed in your first show, essentially, right before you left.
Mhm.
You felt like you knew a lot at the time. You get done with the process and you realize, oh man, I don't really know anything. And now
Mhm.
as you learn more and more, as you get more and more educated, more and more evidence-based, you realize you know less and less and less. And it
Mhm.
starts to feel like, man, do I really know anything right now? And it's funny because you talked about the high schoolers who've been working out for 6 months, and
Yeah.
they're like, here's your chicken and rice and broccoli,
Yeah.
and that's your meal prep. Like,
Yeah.
hit me up for meal plans. I mean, I remember those people doing that,
Mhm.
and those were the people who were just genetically gifted at the time, and they weren't doing anything different than what we were doing in the gym.
Yeah.
But I will say that out of all three of us aren't particularly genetically gifted. Like, we have to work our
Mhm.
asses off for what we
Yeah.
do. And I will say that the more that we have educated ourselves and gone through things, in the gym and in our own specific professions, I think all of us have realized, wow, we don't really know as much as we thought we did. And it's kind of it's a humbling moment, but it also gets you hungry to keep learning more and keep educating yourself. So I find that awesome that you're just about to finish with your
Mhm.
RD. I'm very proud of you. I know we've been rooting for you the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, no, it's been awesome to see you grow, and we're excited to see what you do in the future after you graduate.
Mhm. Yeah, it's cool to think about too, as far as like personally growing and thinking about how much you do and don't know. Because it's like really being in grad school, like I've noticed both at the same time, like thinking, because we have to do regular reflections on our supervised hours and kind of reflect on, after each class we have to pick like a big project from that class and kind of do a short reflection on it, which we then add to our e-portfolio. But then after each like round of, or so many hours of our supervised practice, we have to do a whole reflection sheet too. And one of the questions is like, on every single one is like, looking back at your growth, like, have you noticed any changes? And I think that's like a big thing that I've noticed is like my growth has been exponential since the start. Because I remember, like, I can vividly remember my first day going to the clinical session, not knowing what a clinical dietitian does or really knowing anything. And like, it seemed to like go by so slowly, and it seemed like it was never going to be done because I was just kind of sitting there shadowing. And like, even though it's interesting, like it's just boring just sitting there just watching for 8 hours a day. um but luckily I caught on quickly and I was able to get started going into it. But now, like, thinking back, it's like I was just sitting there not knowing anything, and now for the past probably couple hundred hours of clinicals, like I've basically just been a dietitian during my hours. I go in, they assign me my unit, I review the patients on my own. Like, I'm pretty much independent the whole day and like do my own thing just as they do. And then if I have questions, like I definitely ask them, or if there's some kind of thing that I'm thinking about where it could go multiple ways, I kind of consult with them to see what their opinions are. So it's just cool thinking of that growth, but also at the same time, there's each assignment that we do in class or each new patient that comes in, there's like something new that you haven't seen before, or that you have to dig further into that you didn't before, that you thought you understood. And you're like, there's all this stuff about it that I thought I knew, but I don't. But I'm also I know a lot more now than I did before. So it's kind of cool, thinking about that, how you don't know anything, but you also know a ton.
Mm-hmm. Where, kind of stepping off of that, and you just about to finish with your schooling, where are you going after this? What is the plan for not only, your professional career, you wanting to go get a job, I know, but for your business in particular?
Yeah. So after I graduate, like I said, I want to become a registered dietitian, so I have to take that exam. But I'm looking at clinical jobs right now, just because through this whole grad program and the supervised hours, I found that I love being in a clinical setting. I love the problem solving and the like kind of treating each person as kind of a case report. Um, and like I don't mean that in like a negative way, like, oh, this person has some kind of health problem, I love this. It's more so of a, there's this problem, and what do I know and how can I help this person, and just kind of doing the problem solving, like how does this impact them nutritionally and how can we fix it or at least manage it nutritionally. So that's what I mean by that. But I have been looking at just jobs right now. I'm not going to start applying anywhere for about another 4 weeks probably, just because I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I'm looking at probably like Washington, specifically Seattle. I just want to move out west. As far as just a clinical job, I want to get out of Wisconsin and go experience different places. I don't want to be stuck here where I've been living my whole life and where I grew up. I want to get out. But also going along with that, I have my coaching business. It's called Dimensional Performance. And just a little bit of background on that. I started that in 2018 in college, the same year that I did the bodybuilding competition. And that was more so focused on lifestyle, which I still currently work on and kind of specialize in. But then I picked up the bodybuilding coaching. But that hasn't been like a main focus while being in school. It's just been more so people reaching out to me looking for coaching, and then I take them on, help them for a few months till they are confident in their ability to then try it on their own, which is really my main focus with my coaching. I don't expect to work with someone the rest of their life. I really only expect to work with people for a few months at a time. And if they want to keep working together, that's awesome. That's great. I'd love to. But my main goal is to teach them and get them to a point where they aren't feeling stuck and they're able to do things on their own, so then they can go on their own. So that's really how all of my clients pretty much have ended up. They, after so many months of working together, they're like, all right, I think I'm doing good. I want to try this on my own. So currently I don't have any clients just because like I said, my focus is school. But if anyone wants to work together, I will gladly, take them on and work with them, as granted we align well with what their goals are and, what we can do with each other. But I want to, after graduating, kind of step that up a little bit and focus more so on coaching and working with more people, as well as working in a clinical setting. And I want to get more into coaching physique athletes. So I want to work with more bodybuilders. And I think my niche in that is, at least starting out, to maybe work, like my ideal client would be someone who has never competed before and wants to try it out. I think those are the people that I work best with. And then as I get more experience working with people and prepping them for shows, getting more into a higher level. I think that's how a lot of coaches probably start out. They're working with people who just kind of testing the waters and getting experience with it. And then they just build from there as they get more experience. And because that's realistically part of evidence-based practice. It's not looking just at research. It's looking at what's worked for many, many people in the past and applying those same principles and same topics to future people that you work with. So yeah, I want to focus on working with more people for bodybuilding, but also still working with lifestyle clients and taking more of a I take more of a holistic approach, not in the like pseudoscience holistic kind of way, but more so in looking at like just the different areas that impact health and well-being. So working on like mindset, physical health, nutrition, sleep, working on just all the different areas. And that's where I got the name Dimensional Performance. The big thing that we talked about in our undergrad program was the 7 dimensions of wellness. And so that's where I got the name dimensions of wellness and performance, being able to perform well in those different dimensions. That was part of my goal with being a registered dietitian, is to be able to work with a more diverse group of people. So being able to work with people who might have like diabetes, I can work with them on their nutrition, or people who might have like kidney problems or liver problems or cardiovascular problems, where I'm able to work with those specific populations and help them nutritionally, where someone who is just a trainer or just a coach isn't going to be able to. So that was another rant going on. So to simplify it, working in a clinical setting and working with more people with my business, both bodybuilding and getting deeper into bodybuilding, as well as lifestyle. And then just personal goals is I want to start competing again. I haven't really done that since 2018. I only did that one competition. But my goal is to earn a pro card in a natural federation. And so after I graduate, that's going to be one of the things coming up on it's going to be moving up in my priority list, just because I kind of pushed it towards the bottom while in school.
I think to kind of tie a bow on everything, what would be your goal for the podcast itself now? What brings you here? Why do you want to do this? What do you want to do?
Yeah, the goal for the podcast is just create some more longer form content, just because like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, like would just pretty much every social media outlet is, aside from like YouTube, is focused on more short form content and like what can you fit in like 15 seconds, and you can't really fit in that much. And on those forms of content, people don't really read your captions. I know I rarely read captions when I'm scrolling through. You just kind of look at the picture, the video, get whatever is from it, and then move on. So I think this is a way to help explain more in depth for the people who like listening to things and learning that way, or just getting their entertainment in more of a longer format, and just being able to talk about things a little bit deeper and get that nuance and get other perspectives from you guys who have different but also similar experiences and work with different populations and have different backgrounds. So yeah, I hope we're able to reach a lot of people and help some people out, make progress, and hopefully learn something.
Absolutely. What's your favorite color?
Black.
What kind of black?
Just black.
Black.
Yeah. I like dark things.
Mystic black. It's the color of my mascara. Like the blackest black.
Obsidian.
I can't think of what's that one shade of black that's like the blackest shade where that one artist is banned from using it.
Batman. I don't know.
I don't know either. I've never heard that before. You'll have to find out.
There's some company made a shade of black that is like the darkest shade of black where it absorbs all light, and it's like if you hold something up, it literally just looks like a black hole. Like that's how dark it is. And the guy who made it is he made like a paint of it. He's an artist, and there's this other artist who they have like beef together, and that one artist is not allowed to buy it or use it. And there's like on the page to buy it, like you have to sign like some form saying you're not that person and you're not affiliated with that person and going to give it to him.
Wow. Artists are dramatic, but a cliffhanger for the people. Stay tuned next episode. Zach will have the name of the blackest black.
The blackest black.
As always, thank you so much for tuning in with us. For more free content and to stay in touch, be sure to give us a follow. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, homerun_fit for Katie, Gavin_Geltz for Gavin, and Z Chomicki for Zach.
Also, feel free to email us with any questions or topics you'd like to hear on the pod at thebarbelleffect bodybuilderspod@gmail.com. We'll be sure to link all of this in the show notes for you as well.
Lastly, if you like this episode, please leave a rating and review so others who can benefit from what we offer can find us. Until next week, keep moving, don't eat like an asshole, and fucking stay hydrated.